What's up, incels and ladies? My name is KotyTang. Sonic has had quite the year so far, and what better way to end the year than with an 8-episode Netflix series?
When have I ever steered us wrong? Rhetorical question.
Sure, we've had plenty of Sonic TV shows and movies in the past, but those are really just tools to advertise that Sonic exists. The quality of them heavily varies depending on what you're watching, but Sonic Prime promises a brand new experience altogether as we dive into the very first canonical TV show of Sonic the Hedgehog. With me being a massive lore freak of Sonic and a big fan of writing, we'll see if it can hold up to the scrutiny of what's accurate and what is just nonsense. The first episode of Sonic Prime sets up the plot very well, immediately throwing us into the action with snappy introductions to the world and its characters as Sonic and company battle Eggman while he attempts to claim a powerful crystal called the Paradox Prism. Sonic charging into the prism causes it to explode, sending him and everybody around him into a space between dimensions, before it finally teleports him to a widely dystopian location called New York City, where nobody knows who Sonic is.
It seems to know who we are, yet we have no information on it in our databanks.
It's a city ran by a new league of villains called the Chaos Council, 5 separate versions of Dr. Eggman, each Eggman being highly distinct from one another. A bit of a missed opportunity to have the Chaos Council have 7 or even 8 members. 5 still totally works though. It's referenced that each district is ran by a different version of Eggman, so it'll be interesting to see what each district does, if they even plan to show off each area of New York City. For Sonic Prime, we finally have an entirely new voice cast for each of the characters. And here's the best part. Amy, Tails, Big, Rouge, Eggman, and Sonic are all spot on perfection. This is one of the greatest overall casting that the characters of Sonic have had in nearly 20 years. But then there's Knuckles. So far, the weakest link of the bunch. Adam Neruda is the voice of Sonic Prime's Knuckles, and the voice directors have, once again, opted to direct the voice actor for Knuckles to sound like the most generic tough guy you can think of.
Eggman's got us fighting the bandits so he can have Sonic all to himself.
I'm a tough guy, and this is what strong people talk like. I don't understand why this keeps happening. It sounds so stupid, and it's such a goofy way to voice Knuckles, or any character really. But don't you worry, fellow Knuckles fans, because there's a light in that tunnel. Something weird about this episode is that Knuckles has a second voice actor, Vincent Tong. Now, I don't know why that is, but Vincent does an incredible Knuckles.
I don't know, Rebel. What if we follow him right into the hands of the Chaos Council? Feels like a trap.
Giving him an infinitely better voice. The tone and personality that Vincent applies to Knuckles is spot on. In fact, the only thing that I don't like about Vincent's Knuckles is that he gives him a New Yorker Brooklyn accent, and it doesn't match Knuckles at all. Nobody else has an accent like this, but for some reason, Knuckles just talks like that. With Vincent taking over for Knuckles during the episode, it's almost like Adam was an early cast, and they just didn't revoice his lines when Vincent was later cast as Knuckles. No disrespect to Adam's talent, but Vincent is the definitive Knuckles here, and I would much rather hear him through the entire show. You can hear the jarringly clear difference that Vincent brings versus Adam, especially when they're compared to the previous voices Knuckles has had.
As far back as I can remember, I've been living here on this dark island, always guarding the Master Emerald.
Come on, tell me you weren't scared. If it wasn't for us, you wouldn't have had a chance.
I saw Eggman on the outskirts of the city. He wanted me to give this to you.
Happy to see you're all still alive. Eggman's forces have chewed through our defenses at Green Hill.
Maybe I could. But first I need to be back to normal.
I don't need the details. Just tell me who to smash.
The Blue Streak has a friend?
While every other character acts very on brand with who they're supposed to be, Sonic stands as the most interesting character for this show. When it comes to Sonic, his actual personality is a confident, self-assured, carefree youth that makes wisecracks and jokes on occasion as they fit the scenario. He's more of a sarcastic character rather than a cartoony character. But above all else, Sonic caring about his friends and having genuine moments with characters is crucial, as Sonic always knows when to take things seriously and assess what's going on in front of him, and when it's time to make the mood lighthearted. Sonic Prime Sonic is still fun to watch as he takes all of Sonic's best traits and exaggerates them, but Sonic is still just not acting correctly. The Sonic of Sonic Prime actually acts much more in line with movie Sonic. Devin Mack delivers much of the same cadences and comedy that Ben Schwartz brings to life while voicing Sonic. I really wish that Sega would go back to properly writing Sonic, as he was such a different kind of hero. Sonic wasn't always the most noble or tactful person to be around. He likes to get under people's skin for fun, just as much as he likes to uplift people when he knows that they need it. Sonic is very much aware that he is top dog in every situation that he's in, and he owns that proudly. But not so much that it ends up making him a jerk or come off egotistical, just enough that you know he's a genuine person, and when he's around, he knows how to make everybody feel like it's going to be okay as long as he's there, refusing to let anybody be afraid or sad, as Sonic is one of the biggest emotional protectors in the Sonic universe. From Sonic Adventure all the way up to Sonic and the Black Knight, Sonic likes to joke, but he isn't trying to be so funny that he seems like he's an idiot. Sonic is cocky, witty, sarcastic, carefree, and he enjoys living with no chains attached to him. A good way to see how different Sonic acts in Sonic Prime compared to his actual personality is basically to take any scene from Adventure to Black Knight and rewrite it as if Sonic was acting the way he does in Prime. You would immediately see just how much of a shift his character has taken. Instead of having a serious conversation with Shadow on the Ark, Sonic now just can't stop talking about how much of an action-packed sci-fi movie adventure they're having, especially when he was just shot into open space through an escape pod rigged to explode. Sonic just constantly makes remarks that Shadow isn't making the space adventure as fun because he's so depressing. When Sonic is battling the Black Knight, instead of staying silent and preparing for battle, Sonic is making a joke about how cliche it is for the Black Knight to try and look so menacing. He's asking why he's wearing a purple stringy cape, which would totally get in the way of the fight they're about to have. When Sonic sees he's been turned into a werehog, he starts bawling about how he's just become a werewolf like some kind of teenage high schooler movie, to the point that Eggman gets so tired of Sonic's crying that he just immediately blasts him into space instead of giving a speech. See, Sonic Prime Sonic is an accurate portrayal of Sonic in the way that Sonic Boom is an accurate portrayal of Sonic. While Sonic Boom exaggerates the worst qualities of Sonic, such as his ego, his selfish tendencies, his status as a leader, as well as his overall laziness and careless outlook, Sonic Prime exaggerates all of Sonic's best qualities. His care for his friends, his ability to make anything lighthearted and fun, his sincerity, his lack of worry, his desire to just have a good time, and his drive to protect whoever needs protecting. While they still haven't nailed Sonic's personality yet, I do think this is an agreeable take to his character. It just still isn't a fully accurate take on his character. Even when viewing the catalyst for how Sonic ended up in the situation he's in for Sonic Prime, you can tell that they're exaggerating his personality. Sonic specifically tells Eggman's decoy robot that he can trash talk him all he wants, but if anyone dares to even say a single bad thing about Tails at any point, he'll snap just like that, which causes Sonic to fall into a trap set by Eggman. Sonic would never get so blindly worked up over a few nasty comments thrown at his friends. That's an exaggeration of how much he cares about them, and it's being used as a plot device. This trap that Sonic falls into captures his speed and uses it as energy. The collision between Sonic and this robot creates a blast that encapsulates all of Green Hill Zone and everybody who lives there. Although the blast appears mostly harmless, it causes a nearby mountain to crack, revealing a hidden crystal known as the Paradox Prism, which Eggman planned to utilize to transform the world into something entirely different. This entirely different world is what makes up New York City. The robotized dystopian city is quickly discovered to be Green Hill Zone, but in an alternate dimension where it's transformed into Eggman's empire. So it's basically Sonic CD Bad Future with the twist that nobody has ever met each other. Inside of the dimension are alternate versions of everybody who was nearby when the prism went off, excluding Sonic. He's the same Sonic we've always known, as he doesn't have a universal counterpart. He's simply himself. However, he seems to be powered by the same exact energy that powers the entirety of New York City. The implications for why that is could be extremely dark, or just a coincidence that came from Sonic touching the Paradox Prism. However, the rest of the cast is virtually unrecognizable. Tails is now a cynical loner without a single friend to call his own, yet still a highly talented inventor. In this universe, his name is Nine, and he has, well, 9 tails. Knuckles and Rouge are both part of a secret organization similar to the Freedom Fighters from the Sonic the Hedgehog TV series, or the Resistance from Sonic Forces, although their names in this dimension are Rebel Rouge and Renegade Knuckles. Amy is now a robotized version of herself, going by Rusty Rose, and she's powered by a pink Flicky. In this dimension, she serves the Chaos Council. The Chaos Council is ran by 5 versions of Dr. Eggman. Dr. Dunnit, an extremely aged Eggman, Dr. Deep, Eggman if he were some kind of Asian hipster, Dr. Don't, a geeky teenage version of Dr. Eggman, Dr. Babble, a baby version of Dr. Eggman, and Mr. Dr. Eggman, which is this dimension's version of the Eggman that Sonic actually knows. Not only the animation of the show, but the appearances of all of the characters. I love everything about how this show looks and the attention to detail that they've placed. Even the fighting is enjoyable to watch, and the set pieces that they use are an absolute joy to look at. This show is visually pleasing in so many ways. I've already said that I love the voice cast, but let me just repeat, these guys are freaking awesome. They play every character so perfectly. The writing of this episode is fun, it's silly, exciting, it's engaging, and it's paced very well. It's a fantastic introduction to Sonic Prime, and I was already hooked within the first few minutes. There are some thoughts that I had while watching the show, not too negative, but I think they're important to note. First thing being, incorporating the rings absolutely obliterated my immersion. I hated every second of that. When it was first used, I thought it was just a visual gag, as Sonic had gotten hit and the rings popped out as a joke. And Sonic is constantly attacked and hurt throughout episode 1, and he never loses rings. But, I mean, by that logic, that would mean he should be dying repeatedly throughout this episode because he has 0 rings. If we're just using the logic of rings whenever we want, then that's going to be such a jarring thing to notice and will cause a large variety of inconsistencies down the line. I'll get back to the ring point later, but for right now, I'd like to note that Sonic Prime goes directly against Sega mandates in 2 ways here. They have Tails and Big wearing pants. As the mandate says, male characters, except for Eggman, can't wear pants. Every single character is in a brand new outfit. Even Sonic has new shoes and gloves. Game characters, meaning Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, Amy, Rouge, Shadow, cannot have wardrobe changes unless approved. Even in extreme weather conditions, only the girls could dress up in winter clothing. And the only reason the girls could dress up in winter clothing was because it was already featured in official Sega art. But it's cool. These mandates only apply to certain people, right? I'm sure the excuse is that they're in another dimension. That way we can just ignore Sonic wearing brand new shoes and different gloves and we can just pretend that Rouge and Amy don't both have new base outfits, with Amy's being less extreme than Rouge's complete overhaul. Well, you see, Sonic's new outfit is for the mandate. It's excused because it actually mandate Sonic can wear different things. Mandate. Mandates are not selective. Mandates are supposed to be franchise-wide in order to keep everything on brand and consistent with each other, meaning one would not be prioritized over the other unless given extremely special clearance to do otherwise. Sonic Boom and the Sonic movie aren't canon and are so far removed from Sonic canon that the mandates don't really apply to them. However, the IDW series, the video games, and Sonic Prime are all directly linked into each other, meaning there really isn't any solid reason as to why one would have to follow mandates and the other just wouldn't. I don't care that the mandates are being broken. I just think it's funny that a certain applauded author likes to say that they cannot do certain things or a certain character has to be a certain way because Sega told them that they have to do it this way. I mean, that's what mandates are there for, right? Everybody has to follow these hard restrictions set by Sega. It has nothing to do with the quality of the writing. This is what Sega said they can and can't do. Right? I think the biggest question is whether or not Sonic Prime is canon. Well, the creators of Sonic Prime have gone on record confirming that it absolutely is canon to the Sonic the Hedgehog series. But then there's me, and I don't agree. Now I know, going against the literal creators about something being canon, I often play devil's advocate. I always have a reason when I do. You see, there are way too many contradictions and lore breaks for Sonic Prime to actually be canon media. First, the entire cast lives in Green Hill Zone. I suppose that it isn't impossible for them to all have moved there. If we look at Sonic Prime as something that takes place far into the future, that is, the majority of these characters have never lived in Green Hill and have even been shown to be living in entirely separate places. In fact, whenever these characters are shown to be living anywhere at all, they're usually shown to be living in a city. Never has it ever been Green Hill Zone. So, the confirmed characters who live in Green Hill are Big, Rouge, Shadow, Sonic, Amy, maybe Eggman even. Tails has a lab in Green Hill Zone, and now I don't find it hard to believe that Tails has multiple labs, so honestly, he can slide. But then there's Knuckles, who absolutely does not live in Green Hill Zone. He factually lives on Angel Island. If they're going to make it as though Knuckles lives in Green Hill Zone, then that's just ridiculous and they're lying. Another thing is that Knuckles is not guarding the Master Emerald. I don't care how anybody tries to rationalize this. Anytime Knuckles is relaxing anywhere outside of Angel Island, it's a lore break. If people want to spend time with Knuckles, they would all know he doesn't want to and also ethically cannot leave his island, so they would go to him. The only exceptions to Knuckles not guarding the Master Emerald are when Sonic, and usually by extension Knuckles, are being attacked by an extremely powerful threat. Eggman just pulling shenanigans is not enough of an excuse to make Knuckles leave Angel Island unattended. On top of this, it's also supposed to be mandated that Knuckles doesn't leave Angel Island unless he has a good reason to. Have fun explaining that one going forward in this supposedly canon world of Sonic the Hedgehog. The third thing, specifically in the opening cutscene and then before the fight with Shadow, is Sonic losing his rings and collecting rings. Gameplay wise, it makes sense. It's a gameplay mechanic. It is not a story mechanic in any form. Sonic has gotten his cheeks handed to him on multiple occasions through cutscenes in the games, and he has never once lost rings or used rings as an actual plot device for Sonic's defense. I mean, it sure would have been nice for Sonic to have had some rings when Mephiles attacked him from behind. It might have been pretty useful then, huh? The fourth thing I want to bring up is Sonic being surprised that Eggman isn't using flickies to power his robots. Flickies haven't been used in Eggman's robots since at least Sonic Rush in 2005 and at most Sonic Advance 3 in 2004. The flickies have almost never returned again, especially not as characters stuck inside of Eggman's robots. So for Sonic to be surprised that Eggman's robots are not powered by flickies doesn't make any sense. And finally, this is the most lore-shattering fact of the entire show so far. Sonic did not meet Tails in Green Hill Zone. While similar in appearance, Green Hill Zone is on an entirely separate island called South Island. Sonic met Tails in Emerald Hill Zone, which is an area specifically on West Side Island. This is further cemented in Sonic Origins. It's canonical fact that Sonic got on a plane to leave Neverlake and go to West Side Island. The island that Neverlake is on is already an area that is separate and far away from South Island, where Green Hill is. You can even just go off the original classic canon. Sonic leaves South Island through his plane, and he arrives on West Side Island right at Emerald Hill, where Tails gains an interest in Sonic and begins following him, and then Sonic 2 begins in Emerald Hill Zone. Now, while Sonic Prime does get the background correct in the first sprite animation, where they show that Sonic saves Tails from bullies in Emerald Hill, when 9 gives his counter explanation on how he never met Sonic, it actually shows that 9 was in New York City when he met the bullies. I know for a fact that Sonic Prime is trying to say that Tails met these bullies in Green Hill Zone because New York City is Green Hill Zone, and it specifically shows that the bullies harassed Tails in the city. It doesn't make any sense why both Tails and his bullies both moved from West Side Island to South Island, nor does it even make sense how they got there. I suppose you could always say, oh, the dimension just forced Tails and even his bullies into that area so that Tails can have this backstory. You know what? Maybe Emerald Hill doesn't even exist in this world. But yeah, sorry guys, I don't think Sonic Prime can be canon because even ignoring that last point with Tails, everything else kind of points otherwise, don't you think? But that's all the time I've got for you guys today. We'll continue this when I cover episode 2. If you guys liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more Sonic content. And of course, feel free to leave a comment below to discuss how you feel or just to yell at me. My name is KotyTang, and I'll see you guys in the next one.